So the next part I'm going to talk about is how to support visualization. And here my goal was to determine what kinds of questions people asked about their data. And also to determine when contextual information is useful for people to reflect on. So I recruited 15 participants for the interview. And the interviews were an hour long. And I observed participants using their personal informatics tool. And in my analysis, I identified the different kinds of questions people asked about their data. And again, I used affinity diagrams to identify different themes. And I derived 6 questions from the themes. The 6 kinds of questions were status. Basically, they were curious about what is their current status. The other kind of question was history. They were curious about what happened in the past. They were also curious about what goals they should pursue. So they were using their data to answer what goals they should pursue. They were also curious about how their behavior compares to their goals. They were also curious about the details about their behavior. And also what factors influence their behavior over a long period of time. But the key here was that not all the questions are important all the time. In fact, the importance of the questions change as people's information needs change. Okay, so, and there are two kinds of phases when the importance of the questions change. There's the maintenance phase and the discovery phase, and I'm going to explain each one. So the maintenance phase is when participants already know how different factors affect their behavior, so they just want to know what their current status is. And also, participants have already identified their goals during this time, and they're only concerned with whether they're meeting their goal. So for example, this person said he just tracked the minutes that he spends on Facebook, Twitter, and other social media sites because he knew how these sites affected his productivity. And in terms of discrepancy, this person said that she used Mint, which is a website where you can track your expenditures, to see whether she's meeting the budget that she had set for herself. So in this case, the kinds of questions that are important during this phase are the status questions and the discrepancy questions. So the next phase is the discovery phase. This is the phase when participants collect several types of information to find out what factors affect their behavior. And also this is the phase when participants are trying to figure out what their goals are. And again, note that this is the phase when contextual information might be useful. Okay, so for example, this person said, in regards to finding factors that affect their behavior, this person had diabetes, and she tracked her blood sugar, glucose levels, and food consumption to find out their interaction. And in terms of figuring out goals, PA tracked the quality of her sleep so that she's better rested, and she explored her sleep data to spot trends for which I can take corrective action. So the 4 kinds of questions that were most important during the discovery phase are history, goals, details, and factors. And the details questions and the factors questions, I think are the questions where contextual information and multiple types of data can help answer. And so the next question that I tried to answer was, what kind of visualization features would help users find answers to these kinds of questions? So I sketched out 4 different kinds of timelines with different features. The first one is supposed to address the history question. The one with the goal lines addresses the goals question. The one with the pop-up window is a detail screen where they can see details about a particular point in time. And then the stacked visualizations can help people answer the factors, the relationship between those different kinds of graphs. So I showed these to the same participants that I interviewed before, and here's what they said. Participants generally agreed that the timeline sketches were the most appropriate for the discovery phase. And in regards to the visualization with the goal information, this person said, I like having the goal line. I always like being able to see what my baseline should be and if I am above or below that. And in regards to this, to the details visualization, this person said, when looking at an exercise, there are a couple of times where I really didn't meet my goal. So it would be really nice to be able to say, why didn't I meet my goal then? And then with the stacked visualizations, this person said, the most interesting thing here is the ability to compare different time frames because I'm really interested in the relationship between the data. So to summarize, contextual information and multiple types of data is important during the discovery phase and provide visualization features to help people answer questions during the discovery phase. And just to reiterate this, when I did the field studies with impact, I assumed that people would always need the contextual information. But because I did these studies, this suggests that people don't always need the information, they only need it during the discovery phase. So the next thing that I did was I built a personal informatics dashboard that supports the different visualization features that I described. So here my goal was to build a personal informatics dashboard that allows users to see multiple kinds of data together. And I developed an approach that makes it easier to build these types of dashboards. So again, I made sure that the dashboard supported these visualization features. But when I was trying to build them, let me pause this for a second. When I tried to build the personal informatics dashboard, I looked at the usual way people build these personal informatics dashboards. And the usual way that people did it was through data integration. The idea was to download data from all these different sources that collects data, and then the dashboard downloads all this data, stores it, parses the information, and then visualizes the information. So one example of this is Microsoft Health Vault. Microsoft Health Vault downloads data from Fitbit, which collects physical activity information. It downloads data from WeThings, which is a Wi-Fi enabled scale, and the Zio, which is a sleep tracker. But the problem with data integration is that the dashboard has to do all these things. It has to access data, parse data, and visualize data. With accessing data, this means that the personal informatics dashboard has to manage many data sources with different APIs. And then this means that they have to know how the different data sources work. And from the point of view of the data source loses control of the data. And once the personal informatics dashboard has downloaded data, they don't have any say on how it can be visualized or how the personal informatics dashboard would use the information. Also, in terms of parsing data, there's no standard format for the different types of data that users collect. So for example, the format for Fitbit, or the format for collecting your weight, or collecting your sleep data are different from each other, which means that the dashboard has to create parsers for each of the formats. And then the dashboard also has to visualize each type of information. So now they have to take the data that they collect, that they've downloaded, and they have to create visualizations for each type, which means that they're duplicating the creation of the visualizations. As I noted before with Fitbit, Zio, and WeThings, all of these different systems already have visualizations. If the personal informatics dashboard downloads all this data, they have to recreate the visualizations. So the approach that I came up with is visualization integration. And this is how it works. Instead of having the data sources, instead of downloading the data from the data sources, we're just going to use the visualizations that they already created. Okay? And all the dashboard has to do is to manage the interaction between these different visualizations. And I'm going to refer to these visualizations that the data sources create. I'm going to call them widgets. So for example, Fitbit can take their visualizations and make a widget out of it. And WeThings also are Zio. And the benefit of the visualization integration is that they don't have to access the data at all. They don't have to parse the data or visualize the data. Instead, the visualization integration approach The personal informatics dashboard only has to provide an API the data sources can use, and the personal informatics dashboard manages the communication between the different widgets. So from the perspective of the data sources, this benefits them because now they maintain control of the information. They can visualize, and all they have to do is they create one widget, and the widget that they can create can interact with all the other widgets that other people have created. And the system that I created to show that this is possible is called InnerTube. So the bagels and the donuts should start to make sense. And I programmed the InnerTube system using JavaScript. So it's a browser-based personal informatics dashboard. I created an InnerTube API, and I created some example widgets to show that it's actually possible to do this. And then I created the InnerTube dashboard. So the InnerTube API, the way it works is that it allows the data sources to create visualization widgets using static images, JavaScript, and/or Flash. So they can use any, there's a lot of libraries out there that they can use, like Protovis, Flare, and so forth, that they can use for visualization. And the InnerTube API doesn't care what kinds of visualization they use. The API, what the API provides is a way for the different visualizations to communicate with each other and also with the dashboard. So for example, with the API, the different visualizations can get the date and range of the visualizations to display. It can get the currently highlighted data point and change the appearance of the widget and set the height of the widget and reload the widget. And just from these interactions, you can actually support all the different things that I showed earlier with the different visualization features. And then I created widgets just to make an example of how to use the API. So that I created a Fitbit steps widget, a GPS location widget, a weather widget, and a widget where they can see their sleep information, busyness, energy level, mood, and any notes that we want to collect.